this idea about for sexual assaults or for rape specifically, there's
Hmm.
an idea that it's 100% has to do with men exerting power over women.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there's more to it than that. And like most of the time, when a man rapes a woman, just focusing on this specifically, men raping women, most of the time it's just they're taking advantage of an opportunity, right? And I don't think
Hmm.
100%. It's not 100% just a power thing. Like they select victims. Like they're attracted to their victim. It's not just they're not going to select anybody just because they have a vagina and they want to have power over that person. Like, what's your opinion on that?
On my podcast, I'm going to go ahead and recommend some things for people to check out before I launch into a full answer on that. On Paul Leland's channel for Voice for Men, you'll find a series of radio shows I've done with Aaron Pitsey. There you will see that we've done interviews with Professor Richard Felsen, a criminologist, Philip W. Cook, who's a world-class expert and written several books on domestic abuse and sexual abuse of males. Read those, listen to those. A really good book to pick up if we're talking about rape is called When Women Sexually Abuse Men, the hidden side of stalking, rape, and sexual assault, by Philip W. Cook and Dr. Tammy Hodo. Now to answer the question more directly for me, most rapes are not committed, in my view, or based on the research I've seen, most rapes are not committed exactly and entirely out of a sense of power. It is, but sex is in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not believe a woman can, under most circumstances, provoke a man to rape. I genuinely think that's really hard to do. Like, you really got to be trying. And being drunk and wearing a miniskirt is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Being drunk and wearing a miniskirt may be a bad idea, but that's not what brings about rape. I do agree with the feminists that, to a large extent, it's about power and control, but not in the way they say, because the rate at which women commit sexual assault is much higher than most people are prepared to believe,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's there. And what we've found, and again, I can give you research on this if you're genuinely curious, or your readers, if they're for real. The mean average age of a rape victim, if you take out child rape as a second category, right? If you stop treating child sexual abuse and assault as separate and distinct, which you might be going, but it is different. Wait a minute. What if it's not? What if it's all about sex and control? Well, I can tell you that if you stop separating out child victims from adult victims, the mean average age, or maybe it's a median, never mind. The average age of a rape victim is 15 in this country. 1-5. You may quote Professor Richard Felsen, who's no MRA on that, and other sources. The average age of a rape victim is 15. Furthermore, the majority of male rapists, the majority, between 60 and 80%, were sexually abused by a woman in childhood. Okay, so and then the rest were almost all abused by a man or somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Which means rape is not about male control of women. Rape, for the most part, is a cyclical pattern of people doing violence to each other. And we need to stop pretending or acting as if this is a gendered issue. It isn't. We're all in this.
Mm-hmm.
Women are in it. Men are in it. Women are hurting men. Men are hurting women. Adults are hurting children. Hell, sometimes children are hurting adults. This is all ultimately about violence and dysfunctional behavior. And that's where most sexual assault or sexual abuse really occurs. In most cases, it started somewhere in childhood. This does not mean that if you go out and rape somebody, we need to forgive you because you had a bad childhood. But if we want less of this behavior and fewer people hurt, and for that matter, fewer people in jail, we need to stop acting like this is a male problem and it's something that females have afflicted on them.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that males and females do. This is something males and females fall prey to. And when we see it that way, it changes everything about how we address these problems.
Now, what's your thoughts on rape prevention? Because generally, from a feminist perspective,
Oh,
anytime you speak of rape prevention, it's usually called victim blaming and saying, we have to just teach men not to rape, which is a ridiculous idea because, again, the people who are committing rapes are criminals. And I just saw a news story. I'm not sure where it came out of, but this woman, this is like the less common type of rape. So it's just a stranger rape. The woman was walking in the street and the guy attacked her.
hmm
But in this case, she knew some self-defense. She had been taking martial arts
Good for
classes for
her.
years.
Good for her.
Yeah, yeah, good for her. And she actually choked him out, and he passed out, and she got away.
Nice. Nice. Do not tell me these little bitty women can't defend themselves. Most of them can.
Yes,
I mean, in fact, you said something earlier. I don't remember what, but I wanted to jump on you and I didn't. I'll go ahead and jump on you a little.
sure.
Man, little people without a lot of strength can kill you with their bare hands. Guys, you need to know this. Little people without a lot of strength can kill you with their bare hands. All right? A 5'1" girl who weighs 100 pounds who smacks you with her fist with all her might straight in your Adam's apple, you're probably going to die. That doesn't happen every day, but that's my point. You need to stop treating violent women like they're just funny.
Hmm.
They're not. But anyway, um,
That sounds actually like a self-defense technique you just put out there.
well, it actually is. They can break your kneecap pretty easily too.
Hmm.
They can do all kinds of things to you, punch you in the throat, gouge at your eyes. Um, and that's okay. That's not a reason to fear women. It's to get you out of that person is little and weak, so they can't hear me.
Hmm.
Which in my view is another way of saying, please hurt me very badly, little person, because I don't know how to deal with you.
Yeah.
Um, okay, and I forgot what got me on that, except, oh yeah, of course she was able to defend
Hmm.
herself. Most women can, and it is kind of obscene to teach people that they shouldn't defend themselves.
Hmm.
It's also kind of obscene to take the 95% of the male population who will never in their whole life in any way sexually assault anybody in any meaningful way. Trying to kiss and miss does not count as a sexual assault. Sorry, unless she said no and you kept doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, uh, 95% of men will never rape. About 5% of males will develop some kind of personality issue which makes them willing to do this.
Hmm.
Most guys never would want to rape somebody. Do you actually want to have sex with somebody who's saying no and crying and saying stop? Who wants that? I don't know a
Psychopath.
single. Well, yeah, yeah. And the evidence is that this 5% or so of the population may even be somewhat taking advantage of the whole, well, men just need to be taught how to rape. Imagine I'm a psychopath who's raped 20 women. It wouldn't, at this point, I would have told at least 15 of them, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was raping you. I understand toxic masculinity is an issue now. Let me just go and try and deal with this. And please don't put me in jail. And I'm willing to bet you right now, $1,000 if we look hard enough, we'll find guys doing that shit.
Hmm.
Because they're crazy. Um, Self-defense is something we should all use, and we should take each other seriously. The next time you're talking about somebody who's a foot tall, shorter and 100 pounds lighter than you, and you think that person can't hurt me, you're like begging to be hurt, as far as I'm concerned. And not that I want you hurt. Did that make any sense?
So yeah, if you underestimate somebody, it's easy to get taken advantage of.
Oh, it really is. And the only problem men face on that is that they do get into a double jeopardy where if they do defend themselves from a female attacker, they risk being arrested for the crime of being assaulted. Um, this is where men's issues becomes men's rights to me.
Hmm.
That's the point of, wait a minute, men lack presumption of innocence. They work under a guilty until proven innocent. Whenever there's a domestic or even sexual dispute with a female, culturally, men work under a presumption of guilt. So that when a man is hurt by a woman, I see it so often. It's in the media, it's in social media, it's among people I know. Man is violently hurt or hurt in some other horrific way than by a woman. Um, We say to him, "What'd you do to deserve that? What's wrong with it? He must have done something." And you know what? If that was the standing answer for both sexes, I'd still argue with it, but we'd just be able to shrug and say, well, people can be assholes. Now let's see who can be helped here. But we sort of just mostly do it to men, and that's what I have a real big issue with. If we stop doing that and singling out men that way, I stop being an MRA because I want to talk about the issues and how we make them better.
Mm-hmm. Is it interesting you mentioned that too? Because I think Bill Burr had a bit about, you know, when a woman gets beat up by an abusive partner, you know, why can't we ask what happened, right? Whereas with a man, we always ask what happened. He didn't say that specifically, but the males getting beat up. But for women, for women abuse cases, he's like, yeah, why can't we ask what happened? And he's making a joke out of it, of course. But
no, in fact, that's a really, really good bit that you're talking about. I hope you'll link it to people. I know Tom Likas, who I'm not a big fan of, but Tom Likas has a video of that on his Tom Likas YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And yes, he's very funny and he's sort of obnoxious, but he says, there's no reason to hit a woman. What do you mean there's no reason to hit a woman? I could wake up from a dead sleep and give you 5. Yeah. You just don't do it. You don't do it, right? But to say there's no reason, what kind of arrogance comes out of that?
Yeah.
Because that to me is infantilizing women. That's what's so funny too. A lot of what we talk about, we get accused of so-called misogyny, and I look at what these folks calling us that are doing, and almost invariably they are infantilizing women and refusing to treat them like adults who made their own call and may have made a dumb call. Right? You scream at a man, throw a slap at him, throw a glass of water or wine in his face, call him a loser, make fun of his genitals, and then he loses his shit and punches you. Who's the bad guy here?
Yeah.
Well, he shouldn't have punched you. But what did you do? Are we ever going to talk about that like adults? What did you do to set him off? Same to you. You know what? Let's say you come to me. Your woman has just launched herself at you and scratched your face and tore out a little of your hair and called you all sorts of names. I would say, where did this start? I wouldn't necessarily blame you, but I'd be working on the I want to find out what happened model.
Yeah.
Maybe you did nothing to set her off, but maybe you did, and we should talk about that.
There reminds me of there was a news story. This guy just got out of prison, and these 2 girls who thought they were tough, I think they were teenagers or something, they were young, and they were just stupid. But they were picking on this guy for some reason in the McDonald's, I think it was, and he just beat the shit out of them. Like, he just got out of prison, like, wrong guy to mess with. And I don't think nobody was coming to their defense or anything, but it kind of popped in my head. There was kind of a funny case.
Well, I don't think it's as funny as it's an interesting case, but I've seen many cases like it. And if you look at the stats, as they've been developing over the last 10, 15, 20 years, young women in particular are getting more violent. Now, I can't prove it, but I believe part of that greater violence is the message that the culture has gone with, which is that women being powerful is good, but somehow this is translated into the culture that hitting and being abusive is okay. And while most women don't do it, young women, especially young women on the edge, young women who are already teetering because they came out of a bad family environment, there may be some drug usage involved in their home when they grow up, they hear this message of empowerment and they think it really is a license to hit people. And then when they get hurt, it's like, because they can. At least guys, we know, we get taught growing up, if you hit, you're going to get hit back. And we try not to do that. It's almost like we've taught our girls, you have a right to hit. And while most don't hit, there's going to be that subset of girls who do. And yeah, there's going to be the subset of girls who gets really hurt the first time they run into the wrong guy and he knocks their head off and they lose some teeth. Of course, that guy needs to go to jail, but girlfriend, what were you doing? Would be my question. Yeah.
Yeah, guys know we can't walk up to some guy and like slap him in the face. There's gonna be consequences usually, right? It's like in the Bill
Yes.
Burr example too. He talked about like I think he said like some bodybuilder walking out of the gym and he has a protein shake. A woman could just go over and slap a protein shake out of his hand and say call him a big muscle retard or whatever. But then there can't be any consequences back at it, or at least that's what women are often taught.
Yeah, and that's kind of a problem. And the guy coming out of the gym is probably okay, but let's just pretend 1 in 20 of them is going to lose his nut.
Mm.
Why would you ever provoke that? And I
Mm.
don't mean for women. I'm a guy. I've had scary guys I had to avoid too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, we're talking about what should be seen as human issues. And I think in most cases, what we're talking about are issues that, like 90% the same, male or female. But I guess we're fascinated by that 10%. And I really believe that 10% difference, while it matters, if you address any problem, whether it's sexual, I don't want, what's the word I'm looking for? General sexual misconduct. Let's put it to you that way.
Okay.
General familial dysfunction. If you are only addressing one side, either only addressing the male side or the female side, to me, this is almost like being a fireman who poured water on half the house that was on fire and was asked, "Didn't I do a good job? I put half the fire out of that house." When we don't, yes, men probably need their own groups sometimes, and the guys need certain things that women don't. I know, for example, women tend, on average, to like sitting around talking and expressing their feelings with each other, and they tend to heal that way. Guys tend to heal by going out and doing things, and they sometimes need a little solitude, and that's
Mm-hmm.
part of their healing process, and that's worth being respected. But in the final analysis, when we treat sex and physical and even psychological abuse as if is predominantly one gender is the victim and one is the perpetrator, we're missing all kinds of people who need help, and we're missing dangerous people who need to either get help or get off the streets, one of the
Mm-hmm.
two. So that's pretty much how I see it. And I do see most of the victims of all this right now are men, although I do believe this is fixable.
Mm-hmm.